blood pressure over a period of 6 years killed my kidneys, and the end result, I was on dialysis and many, many hospital visits and doctor's visits, and then in the end, I received my transplant at age 16. I received my transplant from a donor. He was a 13-year-old boy. He not only gave me my kidney, but also, I think, helped out like 7 other people. So the lives you save from being a donor is not only one person, it's many others. In Fresno alone, there's 17,000 people waiting on a transplant list. So the life you can save may not be yours, but it may be somebody else's. So even when you talk to people about being a donor, you know, I just encourage you to tell them, you know, think of it as this: if your brother, sister, aunt, cousin, uncle, mom, dad were in this predicament and they needed an organ or they needed a transplant, would you want somebody else to give that option for to have their life saved? And because of my life was saved, I'm 17 years. I'm the only patient was at the time in UCLA history not to have any anti-rejection meds from a cadaver patient. So my parents call me a miracle. We just encourage you, you know, like she said, get the message out. It really helps. Many people in Fresno, all over the United States, is 84,000 people. You know, right now there's a 5-year waiting list for a transplant. So the more people we get signed up for that box number 7, the more people's lives are saved every day. And you'd be surprised, but once you get on the list, it's a matter of a split second. They call you, you got to go.
So if we have more people sign up, that 5-year waiting list will go down?
Correct, yeah.
So we could actually lower it to maybe get it down to 1%.
Yeah, and like Marcella said, you know, we're looking for 5%. Well, I'm looking for 100. You know.
Right, because it's a numbers game. The more people that sign up, and the more people that obviously accidents will happen. But if those people make that decision way before something, then it's a lot less work for our organization to be like, oh, this person wanted to be wanted to be a donor, and then it takes away the list. Doesn't take forever. So there are 8 million people, but of that 8 million people, we know that 8 million people aren't going to become donors. It's less than 1% of that 8 million ever actually do become donors.
So what would be the easiest field for us to have that would be consistent? That when we ask somebody, would you like to be an organ donor, and they say, oh, no, I have diabetes.
To say, oh, you know, that's great that you share that with me, because I always acknowledge that people share things with you. That means that you're listening to them and they're talking to you. I would say, you know, never rule yourself out. Let the physicians, at the time if something ever did happen to you, let those physicians decide, because we're not doctors, we're not trained. You know, we can't make that decision. There may be somebody who needs a transplant who has the same type of kidney disease or diabetes that you have, and that kidney that they may get may be 100% better than the one they had. So I would say, don't rule yourselves out. We have a training. That's what we talk about. Just never rule yourself out.
What do you tell them if they say, you know, I want to donate life, but I'm afraid that if I'm going to die, they're going to take me out. They're not going to, you know, try to save me or whatever.
That's a myth, and the reason people say that, and you don't have time because you're doing all this paperwork.
Right.
But that's what I deal with every day. That's a myth. People have developed myths from fear. So when somebody says something to me, they're afraid.
Right.
So I say, you know, what is it that you're afraid of exactly? What do you think happened? Because there's nothing you're going to say that's going to change their mind, because it's coming from deep down inside fear. And the fear is maybe death.
I always encourage them to, when they answer that question, you know, if you're uneasy about it, talk it over with your family members. You know, you have loved ones that, you know, could probably help you make that decision, besides you have to make this decision just on your own.
Right. Go ahead.
I've asked too, and one gentleman told me I'm too old.
And I would say the same thing. Never rule yourself out. If that's your intent to be give the light forward, that's what a pastor said to me yesterday. It's like the light that shines in us. It doesn't have to go out. You can give that light forward. Well, if that's that person's intent, he could be 100 years old. Who knows? Maybe his skin would be, a great help to somebody. Maybe his corneas, maybe his heart is that of a 20-year-old. We hear this all the time.
I think so many people think that when you say organ donor, because of the word organ, they think it's only kidneys, liver, heart. They don't realize that it can be the skin, the eyes, and even hair, anything, whatever it is that can be used to help somebody else. And I think a lot of it is because the public is naive to that.
Right, and the question now, July 1st, the question is going to be specifically, do you wish to register to be an organ and tissue donor?
I think that'll change.
And then they're going to have to say, check yes, add my name to the donor registry. The second check is, I do not wish to register at this time. And the last one is the $2 voluntary contribution. So you're not going to be able to input the application unless there's a check on one of those boxes or more than one of those boxes. Whereas before, if they left it blank, we just assumed they were a no. And so then something would happen, they go to the hospital, the parent says, oh, my 25-year-old kid, if they wanted to be, they would have checked yes. Well, we all know everybody's busy, they forget. There's just all these other issues. They're more worried about taking the test and getting on the road and getting to school or work. But when it touches your family or loved ones or friends, you're aware of it. And so, thanks, Ben, for sharing your story. And Ben came to our organization because he wants to help spread the word, and I think it's awesome because these are the people who make what I do every day count.
Now that I'm the first one in the building, can you take care of my DVD?
And so I'm going to introduce quickly, Dan.
When is that?
No, you have to.